Hello everyone. Hello everyone. This is Yashvi, and I welcome you all to the second day of Dev Week, uh, which is a three-day event presented by Innerve, Technoliterati HackClub IGDTUW, which is the part of ongoing series Tech Opportunity Decoded. Uh, so the speaker for the second day of the Dev Week is Mr. Yathish R. He is currently a blockchain engineer at Consenso Lab, Bangalore. He has completed his Bachelor of Technology in computer science at Global Academy of Technology, Bangalore. He has been active participant of Web3 based hackathons, and he has also co-authored a book which is Blockchain for Beginners, which was published in 2019. So we are really happy to have him on board. And meanwhile, I would like everyone to write down their doubts related to blockchain in the comment section, which we will feature in the live session for Yathish to answer them. So the platform and the audience is all yours, Yathish. You can go on with the session. Uh, Hello, Yathish. You are on mute. It would be great if you unmute yourself.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's okay.
yeah. So thank you for inviting me. So it's been a long time before I did this. So yeah, let's see. Hopefully it goes well. So today's session would be blockchain for beginners, and we will be talking about uh, different ways of starting off to become developers in blockchain. And at the same time, we will be looking at what actually blockchain is and what are the different things it comprises of and how it works and everything. And yeah, so we usually compare blockchain and whatever is coming right now as Web3, and we'll look what Web3 and Web2 are actually. And on top of it, so the session is going to be crisp and short, and it's going to get you guys started off to start building. I'm going to give you guys resources and everything, so where you can start to learn how to build blockchain applications and what are the different kind of things that are going to come up in the future, and what is the next big thing in the coming year in the blockchain ecosystem. And so yeah, so today's agenda would be those the key topics that we'll be discussing are like I said, what is blockchain technology, Web2 versus Web3, what Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and Polygon. I mean, the different platforms that are available for us, how to get started with blockchain as a developer, metaverse, DIDs, NFTs, and others kind of things that are actually being developed in the blockchain ecosystem, how they're going to impact us. So this is the session, this is the agenda that's going to be there for this particular session. So let's get started actually. So first question is what Bitcoin blockchain actually, right? So first let me clear, blockchain is not just cryptocurrency and cryptocurrency is not blockchain. So blockchain is a backend kind of a system that actually makes cryptocurrency work. So most of the people get confused saying that okay, blockchain is all about cryptocurrency, so which is not that. So just whoever next time tells you guys, oh, blockchain is cryptocurrency, just correct them. It's not just cryptocurrency. So let's start off defining what is blockchain actually. So blockchain is basically your linked list, which enables creation of distributed and decentralized ledgers of data transactions that occur within the network. So what is going to happen is that we compare blockchain to linked list, but it's not actually linked list. So there are a lot of technicalities and data structures. A different kind of data structure we use inside it is called as Merkle tree, but we compare it to linked list only because it makes our understanding of how the data is inside the blockchain much more simpler. So when we talk about distributed and decentralized ledgers, what we mean is that there is a copy of a certain data which is same on every node that is part of the network. So let's say there are what is that? Let's say there is one system that is sitting here. There's another system that's sitting in somewhere Singapore. There's another system sitting somewhere in US. All the three systems which are connected now in a distributed manner hold the same kind of data. So if one system goes down, it does not mean all other system will also go down. It means that the system will survive still. So this is what makes blockchain a lot better than what is the centralized kind of databases or decentralized data stores that are available at this point of time. So the next question would be, what exactly does blockchain give rise to? So why do we need blockchain is one question we have always, right? So why? So when we know that we already have centralized servers that are sitting there, let's say WhatsApp, Facebook, whatever, the data is always going on in here. So how do we make sure that blockchain is completely different to that? So we say that it's a peer-to-peer network that is decentralized, distributed, immutable, append only, and updatable through consensus and agreements, which give rise to transparency, security, and speed. So what are these? These are the biggest jargons that anybody or anyone will start using when you go ask them what is blockchain. They say peer-to-peer, immutable, up and only, and there are a lot more words that come into this. So what is going to happen is that I'm going to break down to you what is actually these words are. So peer to peer is nothing but person to person. So let's say there's only two people involved in the transaction. Only those two people will be part of those particular things. So there is no intermediary person sitting and telling you what kind of transaction you have to do. So that's peer to peer for you. Decentralized and distributed is there are 110 systems or lakhs and thousands of systems that are sitting there together and making sure that the data is available to everybody. Immutable is that once the data goes into blockchain, nobody can change it. No one will be able to change that particular data. It's embedded forever. So this is what is called as immutable. So this is something that really makes it what do you call it as different from what is centralized. Append only is that you can only add data. You just can't remove data out of it. Once you start removing data out of this, then you know that for sure that there was data removed at this point of time. And it's updatable, sir, in such a way that you can update the logic of the network that's running, but not the data. So this is something that people have to understand. And it gives us a transparency, security, and speed. Speed is what we tell will happen, but trust me, speed does not happen at all. So there is a lot of things going on here when we come talk about speed. So speed in terms of the speed of transactions that happens, the number of commits that happen, and there are a lot of different things that happen, which I mean it's a lot of complex data. So that is why we have something called as L2 networks and everything, which we'll look at it later on. And yeah, so if I have to dumb down what actually this entire blockchain is, that you can consider, let's say, a textbook, which makes most of us cry, is your Java big textbook that we have, right? So what's going to happen is that, let's say we know that there's page one, page two, page three, because they are numbered, and you know that the data is all in order because you know there's the page number one, page number two, there is 0. 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, the whatever those serial numbers are there, right? Now if I take down pages from 100 to 200, remove it completely and give you the textbook, you for sure know that the data is missing in it. Why? Because you know that the numbers are missing there, right? So this is how you know that blockchain is also in a similar way. You know that there is this entire streamlined data where you know that you can go back to any point of time. So that is what we call it as blockchain. So I mean that's how we simplify it, but the complexity is much more than that. Now, how is blockchain transparent and secure? So blockchain provides us a way of generating blocks of data transactions where each block contains the hash of the previous block, making it easier to reconcile and traverse. Like I said, how do we know that the data is actually available in the network? This is what the question is there, right? And how do we go back? So we know that linked list has this kind of data where there is data always, and there is always the address to the next node, and the next node has the data and address to the next node. Similar concept is what we have in here, is that we have data and we also have the transaction, also we have the hash of the previous block. Now the hash contains the complete data of that block, and also it contains the address of the hash of the next block. So this is how you traverse back. So we use something called as a Merkle tree, which is complex data structure, which we use here, which makes sure that the data is also easier to read for us at the end of the day. Now, how does blockchain actually work? So this is the biggest question that everybody have. Now, there are multiple blockchains out there, like, say Bitcoin, Ethereum, Matic, Polygon, Solano, Tron. There are a lot of different networks out there. So every network is governed by something called as a consensus algorithm, which makes sure how the transactions are validated, how the data that goes into the blockchain is validated, and how everybody actually accesses the data. So there is a lot there, even though every different consensus algorithms like proof of work, proof of stake, IBFT, there are different kind of consensus algorithms which rule the entire blockchain. But the thing is that everything happens in one streamlined manner. Only difference between all these blockchains is the way the transactions are validated. So that is where the second step comes in. So we'll go step by step to see how it actually works. I mean, in a simpler way. Now, the step one is a transaction is created. For example, let's take an example. So I have to send money to someone on Bitcoin or Ethereum, whatever. So what I do is that I create a transaction with that person's a public address. I'm going to take that data, whatever I'm going to send, let's say a particular, let's say 1 ether, 2 ether, or 3 ethers. I'm going to add that much value, and that is the data that I'm having, the user's address, the public address of the other user that whom I'm sending. I'm going to create a transaction out of it, and I'm going to add this entire transaction and put it onto the network. So I've confirmed that I'm sending money to someone. Now, what is going to happen? This is the second step where there are miners and validators, and depending upon different networks, there are different kind of actors that are validating these networks. So let's take, for example, only the Bitcoin now, where the miners come in. So what is going to happen is that the miners are going to let's say they take 10, 15 different transactions at the same time, like me, who there will be 10 other 15 people who will be doing the same kind of transaction. They take all those transactions, add it to one block, and that block is put onto the network, which has to be validated by one of the miners or anyone for that matter. So depending upon the consensus algorithm that governs, let's say proof of work, proof of stake, whatever, they based on that rule, the transactions are validated. And after they're validated, they're verified and added to the ledgers of that particular node. And after that comes the step three. We're adding the validated transactions. Once the transactions are validated and added, you have to tell every other node in the network that, dude, this is the data that I had validated and I've put it. You will have to also update. So how do we do that? So we propagate the change of state to all the nodes in the network. There are thousands of nodes that are always in sync in order to make sure that the transactions are up to date, right? So we take all these, the transactions that has updated everything, the new ledger is being passed to all other nodes, every other node validates it and adds it to their nodes. This is what happens. This is a basic flow of how the transactions work. But there are a lot more intrinsic values, like when a transaction is created, the user has to sign it using his private key, then he has to pay some gas fees and network fees. In step two, when the transaction is validated, the miner has to calculate a huge mathematical model has to be calculated, where there's a huge mathematics has been calculated to just calculate one norm. Will be something called it as norms, which is a random value which has to be calculated based on difficulty level. So within 10 minutes, the transaction has to be validated and everything, right? So these are the kind of different things that happen. I mean, there are a lot of other things based on the different blockchains, different consensus algorithms that they use. So this is basic. This is simpler to understand, and it's easy for you to get started also. So the next question: why do we need blockchain? How do we get certain value out of it? Right. This is something that everybody starts asking when we talk about blockchain. So let's look at some of the biggest advantages of blockchain. So first, you get the history of activity, not just the snapshot of time. So when we say you get history of activity, I just don't mean that you get the history of whatever has happened in the last 1 hour, 2 or 3 hours or 4 hours or last 10 days, 15 days or 20 days. Like how our banks just say that you can download only the transactions up to last 30 days, 40 days. If not, you have to just go to the bank, get the entire transaction, right? This does not happen here. You can go to the Genesis block. That is the block that started when the Bitcoin started. You can just go to that point of the time and start getting the data. Nobody is stopping. You can download the entire data. So right now you can just download all the there's I guess it's around 320 GB or 500 GB of ledger data that you can actually download from the network. Nobody's stopping you. You can go through every transaction, minute transaction, and see who did what kind of transaction. Usually what happens is that in the normal databases, when you go, what is going to happen is that it's going to be like, oh, you can get only certain snapshot of time, snapshot of data and everything, right? So that doesn't just happen here. You can just the data is synced every minute, so that you don't have to keep you don't have to worry about losing the data. And when you look at regular databases, you're getting snapshots of data that's up to month. That's like what I said, right? And blockchains do this, so they also maintain a record of information that existed before. Now, there's no one, and there's no central point of attack. The fact that blockchain is decentralized way of storing and accessing data makes the whole system incredibly secure. I mean, just because you remove one server from the entire blockchain network does not mean that you are gonna bring down the entire network. Okay, that does not happen. So let's say you own a server, and one server you just bring down on a centralized way, you know that the data is lost, you know that everybody is hacked, you know that there is not gonna be any proof that someone did something, right? That does not happen here. So there is something we call it as a 51% attack that happens in Bitcoin, which means that you need to make sure that that one person, whoever is trying to take over the network, should be able to control 51% of the network. Now imagine 51% of the entire network. I'm not even talking about the 1%, 2%, 51%. Just imagine the amount of electricity, the amount of computing power, the amount of energy that's required in order to get that entire 51% network into his control. It's not possible at all. Maybe quantum computing, yeah, but nobody knows what's going to happen at that point of time. So that's how secure that entire Bitcoin is in my entire opinion. So not just Bitcoin, even for blockchain, any blockchain for that matter, right? Now, there's no single point of entry for attackers. That's true, and this makes it recording transaction in a secure manner, which happens. Yeah, great. Now, there's no centralized control because the system of record is decentralized and replicated in its entirety in multiple places. There is no need for central administrator and all costs and infrastructure that comes with it. So what happens is that there has to be central server in, let's say, when you're using WhatsApp, what is going to happen is that, there is one centralized server where your data goes through, and the other person also is receiving the data from that particular server, right? Now, these server, any one of the server goes down, all of the servers also don't get that right of information. And there has to be some central administrator who is going to keep check of all the data, who has to make sure that everything is in sync and whatnot. And they anyone who wants to maliciously do something, they can actually do whatever they want with the centralized servers. Here it's not possible because no one is actually controlling the network. You are being a part of a network where it's being controlled by itself. The network is so self-sustaining that you don't need anyone to sit and keep correcting what is right, what is wrong. I mean, that just removes that entire concept of why we need blockchain in the first place. We need blockchain because we want the user control over the data that's being put onto the network. Let's say you put your photos on Instagram, you put your emails, and you put your documentations on Google Drive and everything. You are giving that information in return to the services that you're getting back from those companies. Basically, they can do whatever they want with your data, even though they say that you're in control, but it just doesn't actually. We all do that accept all every time we just do install an application, right? Here you don't have to do all that. In blockchain, you are in control of the information you put on. At any point of time you can remove that, at any point of time you can add your data, and you are the one in control of your data, right? So that's the entire reason why we use blockchain. So then now the next question is, what is Web 2? What is Web 3? What is Web 4? When do we get Web 5? So there's a lot of different things that are going to come up in the next few centuries. I'm going to say is that not next few centuries, I would say that's too exaggerating. Maybe the next decade. Web 3 is going to blow up in so much that it's going to become part of our everyday lives. It's not part of our everyday lives at this point of time, but it's going to be, because Web3 is a way to make sure that we are able to access our own data, and nobody is monetizing on our data. So what is Web2? So Web2 is what we refer to as today's versions of internet that most of us know, an internet where we get services in return for personal data we provide them, basically centralized internet. So your Google, your Facebook, your Instagram, your what is that, Microsoft, your whatever, right? So all these technologies, we call it as Web2 because they use our information to provide us services, and it's completely centralized. And what is Web3? Web3 is what we call centralized or decentralized and distributed internet where data is controlled and owned only by the user and no one. Just imagine you putting your information, you are sole owner of it, and you can remove at any point of time, and nobody is going to question you why you did that. There is no censorship, there is no, nothing is going to happen. If you will be in control of your data, right? Who wouldn't want that? Let's say you put out the most embarrassing image of yours on internet, you can remove it at any point of time. You don't, it's not recorded at all. You, there's only one record that you did this some kind of a transaction, but they don't show you what, but blockchain does not tell you what you did exactly. So that kind of web3 in world, where in the next entire decade, trust me, is going to change the phase of the user data being misused all over the world. So let's compare web 2 and web 3. Maybe let's see how do we do it, right? So let's say there's Twitter. Under web 2, let's say there is Twitter, and search engines can censor the data. Great, because let's say you put out something demeaning or something against someone, or there are certain rules that you can't put certain kind of information on Twitter. They can take out the data any point of time. It's still centralized, even though it's okay and secure, but it's still centralized, right? And search engines can censor any kind of data they want at any point of time. Now let's take Web3. Web3 ways tweets and search engines are uncensorable, because the control is decentralized, because there is no person sitting there to telling, oh, this is the uncensored data, this is not a censored data, we have to remove this kind of a thing. So there is no one doing that on Web3. On Web 2, user data plays a role in monetizing the economy, and the company owns the user data in exchange for the services they provide. Like I said, you give your data, you get the services, they sell your data, they make money. What are you getting out of it? Nothing. You still are paying certain fees for getting much more better services from the same organization. Still, you are putting out your data, right? On Web3, services and Web3 are not user dependent, and user is in control of the data. So you don't have to provide your data just to use services on Web3. You can do it freely. You can do whatever you want. Web 2. Now, centralized servers could go down at any time, leading to outages and loss of data at times. Web 3 servers are decentralized in thousands of devices and networks which act as a backend. So, like I said, this is always what we talk about. There's always centralized servers can go down, decentralized servers can't go down. And there's so much things that are involved in this that web3 will change the phase of what we can do. So there are databases at this point of time, like, there are hosting services which are completely decentralized, and there are databases like textile or cia or ipfs, where the data is synced and data is accessible to anybody, which is also completely decentralized, right? Why can't we move to that? There are a lot of changes that can happen when we move to certain kind of networks. Yeah, so going forward, is Web3 the future? Yes, Web3 is the future when it comes to creating an economy of user control, decentralized and distributed system of products. But that doesn't mean that Web2 will be completely lost. Both Web2 and Web3 will coexist, complementing each other. So if someone asks me, will Web3 be the only thing that will be ruling the entire next decade? I would say no and yes at the same time. Because no, because see, you can't survive without Web2, because Web2 will be there, because you can't remove Google out of our lives. I mean, you provide me the best Web3 based search engine, I still go back to Google. Why? Because I'm accustomed to using Google. I don't want to move away from using Google, right? So this is what is gonna happen here. So we will be using Web 2 to improve Web 3 and use Web 3. So we still will be depending on Web 2 no matter what, because we still depend on Web 1. Web 1 was what your legacy systems that were there, right? We are just moving away from it, but still we use the concepts of Web 1 in order to develop Web 2. So we use the drawbacks that are there in Web 2 in order to develop Web 3. So these will be in line complementing each other and going forward. So your wallets, your systems, or whatever you have, right? I mean, this is all going to be in part of Web3. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Polygon. So this is not going to be a financial advice. I'm telling you guys this. I'm not going to tell you these are the, what is this, coins that you have to invest or whatever it is. So this is not a financial advice. This is basically telling you what kind of networks are available for developers to use in the future. Fine. So why so many blockchain networks? So while most of the blockchains out there have their own native currency, many fail to understand why these networks exist in the first place. So you know that Bitcoin exists, but nobody knows why Bitcoin exists. We know Ethereum exists. We don't know why Ethereum is actually created. There is Matic or Polygon, which is our Indian company that's always there. Why is it being created, and why is it being hyped, and why is it the most successful one out here, and why there is always what do you call Solana that has come out now recently. There is Tron, there is Marlin Network, there is so many things, right? So what are these? Why do we need them? We can understand why Bitcoin was created. Bitcoin was created in order to counter the traditional currencies that were, that is that there is one central authority like banks that is always controlling your money. So that is the reason why Bitcoin was created. It was created to make sure that anybody can do any kind of transactional values without having to worry about someone actually stopping them from doing such kind of transactions. Now, Ethereum was created to enable developers to create dApps. So the fun point is that Vitalik Buterin, who is the co-founder of Ethereum, was part of the Bitcoin's core team. But he thought that okay, we need to give the developers out there to develop on the network. So this is something that can't just be monetary. This has to be something more than that. So that is when Ethereum was created, where you could develop applications on it, smart contracts, or anything you could be created on it. Polygon was created as an L2 solution to tackle scalability issues of Ethereum. So we know Ethereum has is slow. At the same time, there is a huge gas fee you have to pay every time you do a kind of a transaction, right? So what is going to happen with these is that there is not much scalability that's happening. So because there are thousands and millions of transactions that are happening, there is only 10 to 15 transactions that happen per minute, which is really slow. I mean, the data that you can put on the block, any centralized server is like 10,000, 15,000 transactions per second. But why can't we do that on the Ethereum? So that is when Polygon and Matic comes in. So they have created a network where any kind of transaction can happen within a second and at the fraction of the gas fees that we pay on mainnet, that is your Ethereum. So that is why we use Polygon. So generally, we developers use Polygon just because we don't have to pay a lot of fees on Ethereum. And Solana was created to enable faster blockchain with the lowest transaction fee. Trust me, Solana is going to change the phase of how the blockchains are going to work because it does 10 to 15,000 transactions per second, which is the highest that I've seen until now. So this is going to be faster network. This is going to be much more better. I mean, there will be a lot of blockchain networks that are going to come in. By the time you guys actually start developing, you will be like really into it, right? So every other network you see out there is not just cryptocurrency. Trust me, they are always trying to solve a particular problem. Like there is a network we call as Graph protocol, which solves how the outside data comes into the blockchain. So we call it as off chain, on chain. On chain is where the data stays on chain, and off chain is where it's outside the blockchain, right? So what happens is that you can't get your outside data such as an time or weather information on blockchain inside the blockchain. So you have to get it outside and you have to put it on blockchain. So Graph does that for you. And there is something called as chain link, which makes sure that data transactions happen much more simpler and faster. And there are a lot of different networks out there that you guys have to look into, see how they solve certain issues for you when you're developing your applications. So now the next question that everybody asks is how to get started with blockchain as a developer, right? So the step one is understanding the core concepts of blockchain. Now, this is something that I always stress on, that as far as you get your basics right, you can't go forward in this entire ecosystem, because what's going to happen is that yeah, you can look at the YouTube videos, you can develop applications, but until and unless you understand what really is going on inside the blockchain, trust me, it's not possible for you to move forward, because the more you learn about this, the more you fall in love with the entire technology. So just give it your time, spend more time on understanding the concepts. Yeah, it takes sometimes a month, 2 months, 3 months, or some long time, but still it's fine. Spend that time, do learn your concepts. So the concepts are like mining. What does mining mean? What is proof of consensus algorithms, wallets, keys, transactions, and so many other things are there, right? So these things are something that you need to learn before you can move forward actually. So and there are, so we consider Bitcoin's white paper and Ethereum white paper as the holy grail, the holy Bible, because that provides us. the motivation, and it gives us the information of why they were created in the first place, which I ask you to actually go first would be to start off by reading the paper, reading the white paper which you can get. Trust me, the white paper might be difficult for the first go, second go, but once you start really understanding what those concepts are, understanding this jargons is more than enough for you to get yourself started off on understanding the entire paper. So the second thing is having a basic understanding of cryptography such as PKA and how encryption and hashing works. So what happens is that we know that there's a lot of cryptography that goes on in blockchain. So it's better you guys have an understanding of what these PKA standards that are there, how do they work and everything, so that it's much more easier for you guys to understand. And next one, understanding how transactions happen in a deeper level in Bitcoin and Ethereum. So the four steps that I had shown you in the starting is just basic ones, which are basic transaction level that I showed you, but there is much more deeper level of uh, understanding that has to happen, like how proof of work works, how proof of stake works. So these are the different kind of different transactions that happen at the time, right? So it's better you guys understand these, and understanding concepts like wallets, how wallets are created, gas fee, gas limit, and other transactional parameters. So there is, it's easy for us to download a MetaMask and generate a wallet and use that wallet, right? But you should know how those wallets are created. What are these seed phrases that are used? How do we actually generate it on our own and everything? So for this, I am going to not just me, anybody who is into blockchain would refer these two books. One is Mastering Bitcoin and Mastering Ethereum. So these are two open source books that you can get online. So just Google for them, Mastering Bitcoin and Mastering Ethereum, GitHub or something. So you'll get those free resources of entire book, which is really really good to get you guys started off in these concepts. And out all these concepts that I've told you, right, which you need to learn, are referred in these books. Those Ethereum, what is this, how does wallets work, how does gas fee work, how does PK standards work, what are the different kind of PK standards that is being used. So all this kind of information is in these two books, which I would suggest you guys go through this completely, 5 times, 6 times, 10 times, until and unless you guys are feeling comfortable with it. I just say that you guys go study these. Okay. So after you've completed that, the step two would be what I call is a weapon of your choice. When I say weapon, I mean the network that you want to build on, the platform that you want to build on. Do you want to build on Matic? Do you want to build on Ethereum? Do you want to build on Solana? Do you want to build on other networks that are out there? And it's we generally listen to, or when we Google, all we get are the public blockchains. So there is something called as a private blockchain. So though even though there are like smart contract libraries, contract compilers, everything is same on either of those, there is a difference between these two, private and public blockchains. So private blockchains are your Hyperledger Fabric, Hyperledger Besu, and your Corda networks that are there. So what happens on private blockchain is that they allow only a verified participants and the operator who has rights to overwrite, edit, or delete necessary entries on the blockchain. It's more like a centralized, but still it provides you the information that's actually needed for you to get started with. I mean, it just mimics your concept of what is this public blockchain on your private blockchain. That's all. There's nothing else. Still, there are centralized servers in it. And public blockchains are your Ethereum, your Bitcoin, and everything which anybody can take. While most of us we develop on what is this public blockchain, that is Ethereum. I mean, it's okay to dabble in private blockchain, get to know them, but I wouldn't say to go develop in it. If you feel like developing it, sure, you can use Corda for that, which is far more superior, I would say, in terms of the private blockchain. But just stick to public blockchain because they have the huge community support whenever you go wrong or if you get stuck in or anything. So smart contracts as a way of life, this is the step 3. The third step, which is again the important part of your entire journey to actually learn blockchain, is smart contracts. Smart contracts, for me, when I started, there was not even a single resource that was out there. I had to go in depth of the entire documentation of Solidity, which was like what, zero point 0.3 or zero point 0.4 version, which was worst documentation, but at the same time that was the only documentation that we had. But now the documentation that you guys have is by far the best solidity documentation you have, and I love that. So you have to guys have to go through that itself. I mean, there are other things that I'm going to resources that I've put out. So smart contracts, what are these smart contracts, right? Why do we need to learn them? So smart contracts rule the world of blockchain, not cryptocurrency and not consensus algorithms, but it's the smart contracts that actually develop your blockchain, that control your blockchain. So a normal smart contract means basically contract means that there is an certain kind of rules and regulations where two, three people get into together, right? So while smart contract enforces that a cryptographic code and records are on the same blockchain. So basically, make sure that two people are in that agreement itself. So nobody goes out of that way. So learning smart contract is the first step in developing dApps, that is decentralized applications on blockchain platform. Each blockchain platform have their own smart contracting programming language. So we use Solidity for Ethereum. So there are different kind of languages that is being used on different platforms, but let's stick to Solidity because Solidity is the base for you guys to get started. And so the resources that I suggest for learning Solidity for anybody to get started is Tap University and Eat the Blocks. So these are two YouTube channels that you guys can check out, and they have an entire playlist on updated what is this Solidity language, which you can guys can go through. So they provide the best possible explanations for those, so that you guys can get started with that and you can move forward. And yeah, so there is Solidity documentation also, which you guys can go through. It also has a lot of examples like how to build what is that a voting platform, you can build what is that auction house and everything. So there are a lot of examples on the documentation which you guys can go through. So once you started learning smart contracts, I would ask you to build your own voting platform. You can build your own cryptocurrency, you can build your NFT projects. So these two YouTube channels have those also, which you can go through. They have those videos which you can go through. I mean, they are not the best industry channel, but they're good to get started off. So these are the two YouTube channels. Trust me, spending as much time possible learning smart contract development is always worth it, because you just don't want to jump into developing your user applications right now, but spending as much time possible in understanding the smart contract Solidity, building certain small code snippets out of it would always be the best for me, I'd say. And step four, libraries, a way to interact with blockchain. So libraries are nothing but there are multiple libraries of this, called as Web3 ethers and everything, where that we when you can write a smart contract, you can deploy the smart contract onto your chain. But what is going to happen is that you still need a way for you to figure out how to try or talk with those contracts that you have deployed, right? How to make sure the transaction happens for that particular. So we use something called as Web3 and ethers, which is the JavaScript versions of what we use. And so it's better you guys get start learning these also, which is the step four. So learn your Solidity and then come to Web3 and ethers. So there are development suites like Truffle, Ganache, Hardhat, Scaffold, which are major ones which we use usually, which provides your entire which provides an entire suite of application. So you don't have to do anything. So you have to write a smart contract and you just do deploy, compile, tests. You can write your tests and everything on a single application. So you don't have to have multiple applications in different places coming together. Ah, so the next step five, finally showing off your skills. So this is when after you have learned all your libraries or have learned your tools and everything, that is when you show off your skills. That is basically building user-faced applications using your front-end based technologies. Like, so we use front-end based technologies like React, Next, and Vue, which is the best ones because it's usually easy for us to interact with the libraries which are in JavaScript. So we use this. So just uh, yeah, you can use these as your thing. Now, the secret that no one tells you, which is the step six, which I prefer to tell everybody, is Biddle. Biddle is a mantra that we in a blockchain community use. Uh, it means that to innovate on the technology that we have by building something which is actually better and far superior than what was previously there, right? So I would suggest you guys to once you've started learning blockchain, once you've finished certain projects, like the simple projects, I don't want you to guys to do huge projects, but simple projects you do, get on hackathons. So Devfolio with Eth Global and Eth India always do this year-round hackathons where there are multiple projects, let's say ceramic or textile, or there are decentralized databases that are coming in. So these guys sponsor these Eth Global and Eth India hackathons, where by the time you where you have a project, you implement the project, and when you implement the project and use their services, so let's say there are certain projects like ceramic, magic link, or whatever, these guys come in, these guys pay you to literally use their network. So you, what happens is that you can implement those small snippets of code, and literally, let me say, you guys can get paid for using the networks and everything. So try to get into much more hackathons, learn a lot from that. So it's, I mean, I've seen people getting picked off, building in hackathon into companies. And if you go to Instant App, so this is a application that was built by two brothers who are 20-year-old. They built a defi platform via like a couple of years back in hackathon, and now it's one of the biggest defi platform that's there. So the motivation is all around you guys, so you can pick out of it and you can do whatever you want. So keep an eye out on hackathons. So real world applications of blockchain. So for me, when someone asks this, I say there are no real world applications other than Bitcoin. You might ask why. Because for me, when someone asks you what are the real world applications, there are certain requisites that I need, right? In order to make it real world, what is it? It should be usable by any common person out there. It's not just people who are well versed with the technology are using it, but anybody who is not even well versed with the technology should be able to use it. So there are not many applications out there like that except Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is being used even by the common people, because El Salvador, as we know, is legalized Bitcoin, where everybody is using Bitcoin and everything, right? The smaller organizations, the smaller shops are using Bitcoin. That is one of the real world application according to me. So we know that in supply chain, finance, banking sectors, real estate, art and music, and every other sector, there are actually uh, innovations going on, but nothing is being actually useful at this point of time. So blockchain is just starting out, and we have a long way to go. There are multiple people building multiple platforms, multiple applications. But what is happening is that we are uh, still building in order to complement the other applications that we can build. So there is nothing I would say is actually being useful by everybody. But trust me, once we figure out the set guidelines, or there is a certain kind of way to in order to build some applications, it's going to go a long way. And metaverse, DAOs, NFTs, and much more. So this is the next one. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to show you the timeline of what has happened previously and what is going to happen later. So 2017 was the year of ICOs, 2018 was the year of smart contracts, 2019 was the year of cryptocurrency, 2020 was the year of DeFi, 2021, now this year is currently the year of NFTs, which is outrageous at this point of time, and 2022 is going to be the year of DAOs. I'm giving you guys a heads up. If you're starting to learn blockchain and everything, if you guys want to build, DAO is the next big thing that's going to happen in this next entire 1 year. So there is this scenario that is there in blockchain. I would say that every year there is one kind of an application that we build on blockchain becomes our biggest hype. So that was ICO, smart contracts. In every year we could see DeFi was there last year. Oh my god, the DeFi applications last year were booming. There were a lot of DeFi applications that were coming up. Each one of them were locking a value of what, 10 million, 20 million, 1 billion dollars of cryptocurrency was being locked in every smart contract, which is far most the highest amount of transactions that I've seen. And now this year is NFTs. And trust me, I'm going to show you something at the end of this session. You will be shocked to see that. So why we call this year is NFTs, okay? Now, so the next year, what we are going to build is DAOs, that is decentralized autonomous organizations. So right now, we know everybody is in remote organizations, everybody is working from home and everything. Now, what are DAOs going to be? DAOs are going to be where multiple people around the globe can come together, start an organizations on the blockchain without having anyone to take care of it. So there is no CEO, there is no CFO, there is no person sitting and controlling the funds. So everything will be done on smart contracts. So there will be people coming together to build huge organizations just on smart contracts. Imagine an entire organization, let's say a multi-billion dollar organization, that's gonna just sit on a single piece of code. That's outrageous. That actually there is no one controlling you, there is no one controlling anything. And why? And you're just trusting a piece of code. You're not even trusting the other person who is being your partner in the organization. You're trusting a piece of code. Who wouldn't want that? There nobody's controlling anyone. And there is money involved, there is monetization involved, everything will be locked in that particular smart contract and will act only after those particular contract, let's say, it hits certain criteria and everything. So why DAOs? You can ask, right? Starting an organization with someone that involves funding money requires a lot of trust in people you're working with, but it's hard to trust anyone you have never actually interacted with on the network. And DAOs don't need trust anyone else in the group, just DAOs code, which is 100% transparent and verifiable by everyone. So that's just what is needed. 100% verifiable code is all that is needed for you to start a next big organization. So with everything going online, even businesses, we know DAOs are going to be the next big thing in the blockchain, and we'll all be part of DAOs at one point of time. And I'm hoping we will be, because that's the best way in order to do any kind of business. And yeah, so this is a heads up for you guys. You're going to be involved in DAOs and everything. You guys can build exactly whatever you want on DAOs. There are a lot of information out there. You just have to just Google DAOs. So my question is that, what do you think is the value of this particular image in terms of ethers? I just want you guys to type it out. I'm going to give you a minute or so. Just I want to see how many of you think what this actual picture is worth. So yeah, you guys can go ahead and look at it. How many ethers do you think this is worth? Like 1 ether, 2 ethers, or 3 ethers? What do you guys think this picture's value is? So you guys can type it out in the chat box. Maybe we'll see if anybody can guess the value of this particular image. Someone's close to 20 million, maybe. So what do you think is the value of it in terms of ethers? Let's say it's 1 ether, 2 ethers, 3 ethers, 100 ethers. You're a bit close. 1 ether, but I don't know if I know it'll be worth more than that. 40 million USD, maybe. Let's give it another 30 seconds and see what you guys can come up with. 50 to 70 ethers, 200 ethers, 5 ethers. Fine. So the value of this particular image here at this point of time, I mean today's value is 740 ethers, 740, 760 ethers or something, which is around 15 crores. For this particular image, someone just bought this for 15 crores. So that's the value of NFTs, I would say. So this is the official tweet put out by the person who just bought this. So he, for starting, this particular image was worth 105 ethers. Second, after a month they sold it for 400 ethers. After a month they sold it for 740 ethers. Now this particular image is worth around 740 ethers. The next month the value is going to double. And the 740 ethers in Indian rupees is 15 crores. Trust me, 15 crores for a stupid image that nobody is going to use. That's why we say it's an outrageous event here, that we call an NFT craze that is happening is outrageous. you might ask, why are people spending so much on this particular image? Nobody knows why. It's just the craze. Everybody wants to get on the hype. They want to buy it. They are buying it. So that's the entirely why it's happening. So, but what happens here is that those NFTs, even though it looks uh, like a joke for us, there is a lot of information. There is a lot of technicalities that go behind it. Why does the value of the particular image increases in the next month, or why when someone sells it, why is it being sold for the higher price, not for the lesser price, right? So these are the kind of informations that goes into the logic when you're building this particular kind of NFT projects that are there. I mean, you can just build those NFT projects in such a way that whenever someone sells an image that you have created to someone else, you get a certain, you increase the value, increase its base value by 10%, 15%, or 100%, and you get a certain 15% to 20% to the creator who created it. NFTs is a great way for artists, especially in India, to make money, which I am proud that WazirX is one such platform where Indians are selling their artwork for really good value that they really have to get. But at sometimes there are certain projects like these which are outrageously stupid, that people are actually stupid enough to spend that much money. Trust me, there was a blank image which was sold for 10 ethers or something, and nobody knows why the people are buying. People are buying rock images for 10 for crores of money. So yeah, we are in that phase where blockchain has become a joke for everybody. But it's fun actually to be here. So let's take some questions. If you have any questions, or we can take some questions up now.
Hey Yathish, it
Hey,
was a
hi.
really good presentation actually.
Oh, thank you.
So the first question we are having today is how do you stay motivated?
So wait, let me close the screen first. Yeah. So how do I stay motivated? So the thing is, staying motivated is not just about being learning something. It's about actually being a part of an ecosystem in order to become active in that entire ecosystem that makes you stay motivated actually. So if you see people building far ahead of you, you just stay motivated to build better than them, right? So that is something that I am, that keeps me motivated, being a part of a network or being a part of ecosystem where people are always constantly building, and that motivates you to build better, and that motivates you to learn a lot more about things that are new in that entire ecosystem, be it in just not just blockchain but anywhere else also the similar thing.
Yeah. Next question: how much time should we utilize on a daily basis on blockchain, basically?
So I would say there is not much. There is no exact answer to this. It depends upon how you're interested in the blockchain in terms of development. So for me, I would say it's better you get started off learning the theory, the fundamentals, like I said, so which will make sure that you stick with it. So what is going to happen is, the end of the day, blockchain is basically a love-hate relationship. I'm going to tell you guys right now, it's basically a love-hate relationship where you're going to hate it at the start, but you're going to start loving it at the end of the day, where it will be part of your life, and it will be keeping you things. So there is no time limit, I would say, but it depends on what is your strategy of how you want to do. So if you want me to give an answer, I would say spend to 1.5 hour, not more than 1.5 hour, because the concepts in blockchain are really complex. So don't go too depth in it. So spend 1.5 hour on a daily basis. You'll be able to get your concepts right, I would say.
So the next question is blockchain is fairly new into the market. So what made you take up this field?
Blockchain isn't new to the market. Let me clear that. Blockchain has been there right from 2013. So it what made me take it up in the first place was basically, it was really new at that point of time. Everybody was either jumping into machine learning, data science, and artificial intelligence, and I have wanted to do something else other than that. So I just got pulled into that entire ecosystem. It just happened like that. And yeah, I mean, it just stuck to me for a long time. So yeah, I mean, it's fairly new in terms of the development, yeah, but at this point of time, I would say it's not fairly new, because there are a lot of people building on it who have been there in the ecosystem from last 6 7 years actually. So even before Bitcoin could come, blockchain was a concept, but Bitcoin made it popular actually. So yeah, I mean, at the same time, if I have to give a really frank answer, you get huge pay here. So that's one of the best answer I could give you to get into this blockchain ecosystem.
Actually, it's basically new for us, I guess.
Yeah, it's new
So,
for everybody. Yeah.
so the next question is, what is the future of blockchain in India?
Okay, so I'm not qualified to answer this question. I'm a developer at this point of time. Yeah, we get into debates of what's going to happen, really happen to blockchain. So we know that there is going to be something that's going to happen to cryptocurrency, but not blockchain exactly. So blockchain is going to stay here for a while. So Indian government is also going to be like taking a lot of things from blockchain and making it better. So I would suggest that you guys don't fall for whatever information is there outside. Just start building. That's what I would say. So regulations come and go. We know all that, but end of the day, the developers are the ones who are going to make this entire ecosystem in blockchain in India the best that's out there. So at this point of time, everybody in India are building so many things on blockchain. Trust me, it's going to become the next HubSpot for the entire blockchain ecosystem.
The next question, can blockchain be used outside the cryptocurrency field?
Yeah, so blockchain is that's what I said, right? Blockchain is not just cryptocurrency, it's much more than that. So blockchain enables you to create so many other things. So blockchain actually what do you say or you is used we are right now using blockchain in order to create what is this supply chain ecosystem wherein you can have a complete transparency of supply chain, right? You know that there are a lot of intermediaries and middlemen involved in a supply chain. Let's say the food you get from your farmer till your table, there are a lot of intermediaries that are involved. So how do we make sure that there is not no that the end and consumer and the farmer know that their produce is actually being taken to the end consumer with the right value? So that is where blockchain comes in. So for me, I have built a project where we could exactly trace at where the price of a particular value is and what is the price in particular value in when it comes to the consumer. So there is supply chain, there is pharmaceuticals, there is a lot of other fields where cryptocurrency comes in. There is already a document verification that you can do on a blockchain actually. So what happens is that any data that you put on blockchain, you can actually verify it. Let's say your degree certificates, your Aadhaar card, your whatever identifications, everything will go onto blockchain eventually, where it can be verified very easily, right? So cryptocurrency is just a way for us to promote blockchain, I would say. But there are a lot of other back-end work that is going on. We are building decentralized databases. So there is already a MongoDB alternative that we are actually using in blockchain, something called as Textile, which actually like it's like MongoDB, but it's much more better actually. So there are things like these which we are building on blockchain. So yeah, it's not there are a lot of things out there. So if I need to give you one more better example, there's something called as Audacious, so which is an audio platform built on blockchain where the songs are being sold as NFTs to people. So you can own that song, you can sell that song to someone else, and you can make money out of it also. So there are different platforms like this being built at this point of time.
The next question, does MetaMask support any blockchain other than Ethereum?
Uh, I would say no, but I mean anything that is linked to Ethereum, let's say even Polygon or Binance, DAI, and all these are based on ERC20 versions of Ethereum. So these are the ones which are enabled by MetaMask. So every other blockchain like Solana, Tron, Tezos, they have their own wallet because they are based on completely different platform and different uh, architecture entirely. So everything that is not part of Ethereum ecosystem has a different kind of wallet. So MetaMask does not support anything other than Ethereum.
Okay, I think. The next question, what is the best thing you like about being a blockchain technology?
Okay, one thing is I get the inside report of which cryptocurrency is gonna become next big thing. That is one thing. Secondly, it's about the ecosystem is so diverse and so much things are being built at a fast pace that you would feel like being a part of it, the entire ecosystem. And being a blockchain developer for me is more like I can get to dabble with whatever I want. It's not like, see, there are certain things on web 2 where I can do only limited work, but on web 3 I can innovate a lot of things. I can do whatever I want to here. I can build an entire, let's say, credit application on blockchain and make it a big thing for me. It's that kind of tools are available for me actually. So it gives me a degree of freedom where I can do whatever I want on blockchain, and that's That's more than what a developer can ask for. That kind of freedom that you get to do whatever you want.
So I think this is the last question. Since blockchain is so decentralized, isn't there a high risk of getting hacked or false transaction?
Uh, yeah, there are risks of getting hacked. I mean, it depends upon what kind of contracts, smart contracts that you are being written, and what kind of transactions that happen onto the network. And false transactions, this is something we call as false spend or double spend, where there are two trans, where you can send certain kind of money, which is a complex concept actually. So yeah, I mean the thing is that that's the reason why we have validators, miners who validate every transaction that you make, every kind of small transaction that you make is being validated to make sure that it's not a false transaction. If it's a false transaction, it's rejected outright. So that's the reason why we have different consensus algorithms out there, which you guys can look it up. So the major one is the proof of work, which is being used in Bitcoin. So you know that you can't make a false transaction because you will be the one who will be losing money because the transaction will be rejected. You'll be still paying the gas fees and everything, which will be not reverted back to you, right? So nobody wants to lose money over a false transaction. Getting hacked, I would not say getting hacked. I would say there may be forks, which is like a single chain that is being splitting into two chains, two completely different chains, but not hacked. I would say not getting hacked. I mean, maybe your wallet can get hacked, that's there, but the entire network won't get hacked.
So I think we are done with all the questions on blockchain. Thank you so much. It was an amazing session, even if you have done it after a long time, but it was a
Yeah.
really great session.
So
Thank
yeah,
you so much for being with
yeah,
us.
yeah. Thank you, thank you. So I'll be sharing you
Thank
guys the resources. I'll share a list of which you can share with everybody. So there, I saw many of them asking for resources. So I'll be sharing a list of resources with you, which you can give out to everybody. And yeah, so this was fun session actually, and I'm happy to be part of it.
you. It was a
So yeah, so anything you guys want to ask or anything, I'm gonna give a list of resources with my contact details. You can ping me anytime you guys want. So
Yeah, we will
yeah,
provide your contact, LinkedIn,
yeah,
and
sure, sure. Yeah, yeah,
I think we are done with all the questions, but they can ask further.
yeah.
Thank you so much for being
Yeah,
with
yeah, yeah. Cool,
us.
cool. Yeah, thank you, thank you.